A quiet night in the small town of Haverfordwest. The wind threaded through the treetops, sounding like invisible whispers. In an old brick house at the end of a deserted street, the eyes of two twin girls gleamed in the dark. They were Jennifer and June Gibbons, the only black children in a white neighborhood, small creatures who nonetheless drew the gaze of the entire school and community. Their parents, Gloria and Aubrey, were gentle, soft-spoken people. They always tried to fit in, but somehow the family remained outsiders. From the time they could walk, Jennifer and June showed something strange. They would not speak to anyone. Not a single hello to a teacher, not a cry for their mother, not a call for their father. Every sound they made, whispers, chirps, even laughter, was reserved only for each other. It was said that one night Gloria opened their bedroom door and found the two children sitting face to face, the yellow glow of the nightlight casting their faces into a pallid mask. They did not flinch when they saw their mother. They simply continued whispering in a peculiar tongue, a stream of sounds both familiar and alien, like wind squeezing through a crack, quick and urgent, almost not human speech at all. Shuddering, Gloria closed the door and rarely intruded into their private world again. At school, teachers tried to draw them out, but failed. When their names were called, they would rise silently, their dark eyes like bottomless wells, fixed on whoever addressed them. Classmates began to avoid them, then mock them. They're mute ghosts. They are possessed. Stranger still was their absolute synchrony. When one tilted her head, the other did the same. When one frowned, the other frowned. When one laughed, the other laughter echoed like a delayed reflection. The older they grew, the heavier their silence became, like a thick curtain. Adults began to feel fear, not just curiosity. Teachers swore they heard faint giggles or synchronized footsteps in an empty classroom, though no one was inside. Once, a boy dared to touch Jennifer's arm. Instantly, both sisters snapped their heads around, glaring with eyes sharp as knives. The boy burst into tears and never approached them again. At the age of 8, they began to write. Pencils, scraps of paper, anything would do. At first, their pages were filled with strange symbols, gradually morphing into distorted English words, eerie tales about living dolls, talking animals, and locked rooms. What unsettled the adults most were the dialogues, written only for each other, never for anyone else to read. Sometimes taped shut in desks, hidden under pillows, or stuffed deep into cracks in furniture. Once, This was no child's bluff. It was cold, certain, like a curse. Time passed, the family moved, but nothing changed. In the new place, Jennifer and June withdrew even more. They went to school, returned home, always together, like two little phantoms. Neighbors claimed they often saw them walking past the window, their steps perfectly in sync, as though one person moved with two bodies. Sometimes, eerily, the girls would stand motionless for hours, staring into empty space, their lips moving silently. On certain nights, Gloria heard whispers from their room. She pressed her ear against the door. The sound like a murmured song, sometimes punctuated by brittle, lifeless giggles. When she opened the door, the room was dark, the girls lying still as if asleep, but their lips remained faintly curved, as though concealing a secret no one else could know. Then came the day Jennifer began keeping a diary, not as a record of herself, but like an observer. Strange lines appeared. We have chosen. We will be silent to grow stronger. They will never understand. We are different from them. One day, We will make them see us. June also wrote, but in a different voice. We cannot live like this forever. One of us must be sacrificed. One will be stronger, the other will disappear. For the first time, a word appeared, sacrifice, on those small, fragile pages. No one understood, but all felt something was approaching. And that night, when the wind swept fiercely through the town, someone swore they saw through the Gibbons window two small figures standing close together, whispering something before turning in unison to look straight outside, as if they knew they were being watched. When Jennifer and June entered adolescence, the world around them seemed to vanish. Every sound of daily life, calls, laughter, lessons, drifted past their ears without leaving a trace. They existed like paired shadows, moving together, breathing together, speaking in a language only they could understand. Teachers gradually realized that if they wanted any contact with Jennifer and June, they could only watch as spectators. The girls had created their own system of communication, a secret language, half English, half a stream of strange syllables with irregular stresses. The moment someone tried to intrude, they fell silent, their eyes empty as mirrors. That look chilled anyone, as though standing before two beings who did not belong to this world. It was said that many times, when a teacher turned their back, the girls began to write furiously, words intertwining, jagged, haunting. What they produced was not childish notes but dark stories. Dolls killing their owners, families haunted by ghosts, houses consumed by fire. A passage from one of their plays left a teacher frozen in place. One had taught them, yet every page, every stroke of their handwriting carried a dense, chilling energy. On rainy days, when the town was drenched in gray, their mother, Gloria, often heard rhythmic tapping from the girls' room. It was not the sound of pens nor of footsteps. It was like a code. 3 quick taps, 2 slow, repeated again and again. When she knocked on the door, the sound stopped at once. Opening it, she would find the Jennifer and June lying on their beds, eyes shut, but their hands hidden beneath the blanket, still moving, as though conversing in secret. Their world did not exist only on paper. They created living scripts with imaginary characters only they could see. They recorded voices onto cassette tapes, changing their tones, whispering chilling dialogues. One tape later discovered carried a burst of giggles before cutting to a long silence that lasted nearly a minute. At the end, one of the girls whispered, "We need a bigger secret. This is not enough." At school, people began to fear them, not because they had done anything directly harmful, but because of their silent, oppressive presence. Classmates avoided them. Some swore they had seen the twins standing outside on the playground, staring at another child for minutes on end. That sensation of being watched, of being read from the inside out, left everyone shaken. The climax came when Jennifer and June turned 14. They began writing novels, filling thick notebooks with bizarre and violent stories. One was found containing the passage, "We will do something no one can ever forget. The world will have to remember our names." Gradually, the stories no longer stayed confined to paper. The girls wanted to test their power in the real world. It began with small acts, breaking windows, forcing locks, fighting with neighborhood children. But things escalated. People reported sleepless nights, hearing footsteps in their yards at midnight, hearing laughter hissing through door cracks. One night, a small shed on the outskirts of town was set ablaze. The fire roared, though no one was harmed. When police investigated, a witness claimed he had seen two small figures running from the scene, holding hands, their joined silhouettes like a single person with two bodies. When questioned, the girls remained silent. Their lips moved, but no sound emerged. Every question was met with a deep, unwavering stare that forced adults to look away. Police noted their presence but found no evidence. At home, however, fear had begun to fester. Gloria started, though half their souls had been ripped away. And when brought back together, they laughed, embraced, and whispered endlessly, fast, feverish, like two creatures returned from a dark place. One psychologist wrote in his report, "They are not two separate individuals, they are a system, a machine operated through two bodies. To break it, one must destroy the whole, but the price would be immense." The terrifying part was that Jennifer and June seemed to know this. One night in Jennifer's diary, a trembling line appeared. "One day, we will have to choose. One of us must go so the other can be free. But who will disappear? Who will remain?" Time passed, and Jennifer and June reached the age when other children began to explore the world, make friends, fall in love, rebel. But for them, the world was still only the two of them. And when repression lasts too long, it begins to twist into something more dangerous. Their stories on paper were no longer merely dark fragments. They had become warped prophecies. The notebooks filled with handwriting, scripts and diaries no longer told only of dolls and haunted houses, but chilling notes about things they wanted to do in real life. Burn everything. Let them know we exist. If anyone tries to stop us, we will silence them forever. No one noticed these words until their behavior grew reckless. It began with petty theft, candy, tapes, trinkets, but soon they escalated, breaking into sheds, vandalism, then arson. The first fire was small, flickering in a corner of a yard, but the next ones were not. One night, a large storage shed was burned to the ground. The flames lit up the town's sky. Sirens screamed through the night. Whispers spread among townsfolk. There's something wrong with those two. They look at each other and laugh, like they knew it would happen. Police suspected them but had no proof, no clear witnesses. At home, however, Gloria saw it plainly. Jennifer's eyes gleamed whenever she heard news of a fire, while June quietly wrote in her diary. One page read like a confession. "We do it to feel the power. Fire is beautiful. Fire makes people see us." Desperate, the family turned to Broadmoor Hospital, a place for the most unusual cases. Psychologists, teachers, even linguists were called in to study them. They tried to separate the girls, forcing them to engage with the outside world, but each time they were parted, both became hollow. Jennifer sat motionless, eyes staring blankly into nothing. June lay on her bed, not eating, muttering fragmented words to herself. A doctor wrote in their file, "Two bodies, but one mind. Together they function, laughing, writing, whispering. Apart, hate her, but I cannot live without her. She controls me. If she were gone, I would be free." One night, Gloria heard something she had never heard before. An argument. Their voices weren't loud, but sharp and fast, like small knives. She heard the scrape of a bed, footsteps stamping the floor. When she opened the door, the twins were seated close together, perfectly silent, faces blank, as though nothing had happened. But their eyes, those bottomless black eyes, made her skin crawl. And then, one day, Jennifer wrote a terrifying line in her diary. "One of us must die for the other to be free. I choose myself." No one knew whether it was a promise or a curse, but from that moment on, Jennifer began to weaken. With no clear illness, her body slowed, her voice grew faint, her eyes dulled. Meanwhile, June seemed to grow stronger, writing more, even smiling occasionally at strangers, something she had never done before. The hospital noted the change, but found no explanation. One doctor wrote, "The twins appear to have reached some internal agreement, a division of roles, but no one outside them can understand it. It feels as if Jennifer is preparing for departure." What awaited them? Why must one vanish for the other to live? And more disturbingly, who had made that decision? Was it them, or something else that controlled them both? Jennifer and June had never been ordinary children, but by this time, those around them felt they had gone too far, crossing the boundary of mere strangeness. At Broadmoor, the high-security psychiatric hospital, they still lived in their private world, but something different was happening inside them. Jennifer's diary entries grew short, almost despairing. No more long stories or threats, only fragmented lines, sometimes like last words. "I am tired. The world does not need both of us. June must live. I will go." June, in contrast, wrote frantically, her slanted handwriting filled with confessions and fear. "Jennifer says she must die. I laughed, but I am afraid. If she goes, what is left of me? I don't know if I want her to live or die, but I cannot stop her." Doctors noticed the change clearly. Jennifer grew visibly weaker, her steps slow, her skin pale, her eyes hollow. She spoke even less, though she had always been nearly silent, and she no longer whispered to June as much as before. Some thought it was the effect of medication, or the long years of isolation. But there was something in the sisters' eyes that made every scientific explanation feel empty. One morning, a nurse reported entering their room to find Jennifer and June sitting close together on the bed. Hand organ damage, no medical cause. Yet her body grew weaker each day. June accepted it calmly, without tears or panic, only watching, caring for her, writing in her small notebook. One page from that notebook later became chilling evidence. "We agreed that one of us must sacrifice. Jennifer chose to go, so that I could live. She will die. I will speak." On the day they were transferred out of Broadmoor, after many years of treatment, doctors hoped they might begin anew. On the bus, Jennifer rested her head on June's shoulder, giving a faint smile. She whispered a few final words, too soft for anyone but June to hear. June nodded, eyes wet, but said nothing. When the bus arrived, Jennifer was barely conscious. A nurse checked and found her unresponsive, her pulse faint. She was rushed to emergency care, but only hours later, Jennifer died. There was no sign of illness, no clear cause. Her heart simply stopped, as if by choice. The medical report concluded her death was sudden, unexplained. When told, June did not wail or collapse. She only bowed her head and wrote in her diary, "She freed me. Now I am free." The strangest thing happened afterward. June began to speak. No more silence, no more secret language. She answered questions, conversed with doctors, with family, even laughed. People were astonished and unsettled. It was as though one door had opened only when another had closed. When asked why Jennifer had died, June said simply, "We had a pact. One had to go so the other could live. we could not exist together. Now, I can be normal. But in Jennifer's final journals, the scrawled words still haunt. They will never understand. We were never two. We were one. And one has chosen silence forever. After Jennifer's death, something changed entirely in June. To outsiders, it seemed like a strange miracle. The girl who had once been silent, locked away in a world no one could reach, suddenly began to speak. But to those who truly knew them, who understood the almost supernatural bond between the sisters, this change carried no joy. It felt, instead, like the shadow of a ritual completed, a lingering coldness that clung to the air. On the day of Jennifer's burial, the sky was gray, the wind bitter. June stood still by the grave, neither crying nor speaking, her hands clutching her diary tight. When the funeral ended, she opened the book and wrote a final line. "She is not dead. She only sleeps within me." And indeed, from then on, June lived like an ordinary person, at least to the world. She gave interviews, spoke of her childhood, revealed secrets long hidden. The press called her the years at Broadmoor, the long nights staring at the ceiling, hearing Jennifer whisper, "One of us must go." She said they believed in something beyond reason, that they could not both exist, that one must sacrifice to free the other. When asked why it was Jennifer, June replied simply, "She was the stronger one. The stronger one chose to leave." The remark stirred endless theories. Psychologists dissected it, journalists investigated, many insisting it was a case of dissociation, an extreme dependence that blurred their identities. But for those who believed in the supernatural, the Gibbons sisters were more than a clinical case. They were proof of an invisible bond, a fusion of souls beyond comprehension. Years later, some said that when June walked alone through the fields, she often stopped, tilting her head as though listening to someone. Relatives claimed they sometimes saw her writing furiously, as if in a trance, the words signed not June, but Jennifer. In her final diary, June left chilling confessions. "I thought I was free, but sometimes I see her shadow in the mirror. When I write, my hand shakes. At night, I hear a steady tapping at the window. It is not me, it is her. We promised never to part. Death does not break a promise." There was even a rumor. On a stormy day, June visited Jennifer's grave. A groundskeeper said he saw her kneel, press her ear against the headstone, whisper something, then smile, a faint, strange smile, as if she had just heard an answer. The story of the silent twins ends with more questions than answers. Jennifer's unexplained death has never been resolved. June's uncanny transformation leaves people wondering, was it simply psychological release, or the continuation of another soul? Perhaps the truth is hidden in Jennifer's own words. "We are one. When one is silent, the other will speak. When one goes, the other carries us both." And that is why their tale lingers, because sometimes silence is not emptiness, but the echo of a voice that chose to remain.